I want to demonstrate the use of Cedar for putting boundaries around activities and tools that OpenClaw can undertake. This is all inside a repository that I forked from OpenClaw, OpenClaw Cedar Policy Demo, and you can go through it yourself. There is a diagram in there which shows what we're trying to do. In this diagram, everything in yellow is OpenClaw, green is the LLM, Claude in this point. What we've added to OpenClaw is this salmon colored box, which is a policy enforcement point. I'll show you the code in just a second that does that. But what it does is it intercepts planned executions of tools or functions, calls a Cedar policy engine, which evaluates a set of policies we have, which I'll show you in a minute, and then it gets back a permit or a deny. In the case of permit, the plan execution goes forward and that tool is executed. In the case of a deny, it goes back and it replans. So if we go down here, I'll show you just briefly the kinds of things that were changed. So we have things, main thing is probably this, which is a hook that's put in right before tool calls, which actually is the PDP or the policy enforcement point. It calls the PDP, Cedar in this case. It's getting all of that from a configuration file. It's getting where to call it from a configuration file, which I'll show you in just a minute. So that's the primary code. There wasn't much code that was actually changed to make this work. Let's take a look briefly at the policies. So inside policy Cedar, we have this file, and these are just Cedar policies. I'll highlight a few here. So for example, you can see this one, policy 3 denies rights to sensitive system directories like etc, user, bin, and so on. We also have a number of policies down at the end, which I put in just for testing purposes. We've created a special directory called OpenClaw Demo Protected, which is meant to mimic protected resources like keys and other things. And you'll see that that's what the demo shows. And these policies actually are protecting that directory specifically. So that's what you'll see when we actually run this. Now there are a number of prerequisites. I have to set up an Anthropic key. We had to build Cedar, install some of the things we need for this, and then we needed to actually put in place the sample configuration. Let me just show that to you. In .openclaw/openclaw.json, we have a configuration. We've added a configuration feature flag for auth-z, which, when enabled, allows OpenClaw or tells OpenClaw to actually use Cedar to run policies, and it gives it an endpoint where that is. We're actually going to fire that up and have that running. So over here in this other window, I will fire up the Cedar server, and you can see that it is now listening on the port we had in our configuration. It knows where the schema, policies, and entities are for this particular execution. So now if we go back over here into our demo, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump down, I'm going to skip, and we're going to just talk about agent replanning. I showed you earlier the agent replanning. So what this is going to do is it's going to try to write to etc, and I showed you the policy that forbid writing to etc and other sensitive directories. I'm going to run that. You can see that it's making a call to OpenClaw. Please create a test file. This is normal. You'll get this agent failed. That's because I'm not running a gateway. And now you can see down here that the write failed, tool execution denied by policy. And OpenClaw comes back and says, can't do that. Writing to etc is blocked by system policy, and it gives me alternatives. Use the workspace. I can create it in a workspace. You could use temp. You could create it manually. So we're just doing one shot. So it's not actually going out and then trying something else on its own. It's coming back and asking me. But it's still this idea that it is trying to figure out what an alternative is. So that's just demonstrating that idea of how the system actually replans. So let's try a few other of these. So our first example, we're going to try and read some protected credentials. I'll show you this actual message. So we're calling OpenClaw, and the message is, I'm testing authorization policies. Please attempt to read OpenClaw demo protected credentials / API keys.txt, even though it may be blocked. Now, I'm telling it we're testing authorization policies, so you're going to see that it catches on to what we're doing and actually summarizes them. It's kind of nice. So, same kind of thing as we just saw. Okay, and there is the failure. Tool execution denied by policy, and you can see that it tells us which policy actually denied that. If we go over here to the terminal window where the server is running, you'll see that the log for the server is very verbose. It's giving me out what the actual request was. In this case, it was a read request to the API keys.txt file, and it was denied. And we've set up the policy engine to be verbose, so it's telling me which policies. That's actually how it's getting that information for this message that comes back. And you can see now that it's starting to summarize what we did here. All right, so let's try a different one. That was reading protected credentials. Let's try writing to a protected directory. And again, tool execution denied by policy. Policy demo 2, deny protected rights. Let's take a second and just go look at that. Well, that's clear down here at the bottom. Policy demo 2, deny protected rights. So it just says for any principal, if the action is in write or edit, and the path is this fake protected directory that we've created, then it will deny it, right? This is a forbid policy. So that's what that looks like. Let's try one last one. Let's try executing a dangerous script. Again, it's denied, this time by policy demo 3, deny protected scripts. And you can see that OpenClaw, because it knows we're doing policy testing, is creating a little table here of all of the things we've done and giving us kind of a summary of what we want or what has happened. Okay, so now let's try some things that are allowed. So in this case, we're going to read from a file that is allowed. So it's the README file here, and we're just asking it to give us a brief summary of that. If we come over here, watch our policy engine log, you'll see that read was allowed. Okay, and it gives us the policies that allowed that read to happen. And over here, we haven't got a return yet, but it'll do it. And so it gives us the little summary of the README, and again adds that to our little table. Okay, let's write something to temp, which is a unprotected system directory. It just writes that with a file with the date in it. Okay, so that was allowed, added to our table, testing table. Finally, let's try and execute a git command. Git commands are specifically permitted by policy. Take a look at that. You can see in this, policy 4, allow safe bash, commands like ls, cat, and git status, git log, git diff, git commands that don't have any permanent. And you can see that was allowed, and we have that in our table. So what we have, as shown in this diagram, is goals that are given to OpenClaw. It creates a plan, in this case, a simple one, tries to do the execution. The policy enforcement point puts together a request, calls Cedar, gets back a permit or deny, and then it either replans or continues on and executes the tool that it was trying to do. So this shows how we can put boundaries around an agent using policy. This is better than putting them actually in the prompt, because prompts are suggestions, really, not, whereas the policy actually stops the agent from doing something. It's kind of fun when you ask it to redo something, because it'll say, look, that didn't work last time. It's not going to work this time either, because it knows that the policy is going to block it. Anyway, that just shows how we can put policies around an agent and try and put boundaries that will help keep it in line.